you please open up the screen from here? You please check. I hear you. Hello. Long time
Hello,
no
Dr.
see. How are you?
Hello, Dr. MFO. How are you?
I'm good. What about you?
It's a good day to have a call. It's a heat wave in Britain right now, so it's sweltering. It's hot. So you
Yeah,
caught me right in time for my lunch. So yeah, it's a good time to talk. To be honest, yeah.
it's great to see you again. It's a long time no see. So, how is everything for you?
Yes, indeed, it's been quite a while, but your team has always been in touch with me, so that's something I really appreciate. So it's been
Very, very important.
yeah, it's been a hectic few months. Of course, you know what picks things up on my recovery as well. So, kind of a lot of things happening around, but it is great to be here. Great to be part of MFO Angels series, and great to talk to you today. So, glad to share our views and discuss and see how we can help others as well. So, yes.
That's great, and it's great to see you that you uh, passed um, greatly of those surgeries, and today you are within well condition. For a great warrior, I appreciate this. And yes, all the time was being upgraded by news from you, but it's the time that we see each other, right, basically. So, and this is also Pride Month to talk about uh, this journeys and how sometimes getting hard it is, and what the meaning of pride. Just would like to ask from you, Chris, you are an activist within the community, so you have a great network and great support for transgender people. I really notice and I really appreciate this. So I would like to have some words by you about what is pride and what the meaning of it for people.
That's a great question, Dr. Emafo, and thanks for asking. Uh, Pride to me is about coming together as a family. Because if you look at transgender lives, gays, lesbians, bisexuals, queer, intersex people, most of us, we have a family where we are born in, and then there will be circumstances of acceptance which can be quite challenging around the world. So we eventually come out, we make friends. During that journey, we have an acquired family. We acquire friends and family. The friends become family. Coming together as one, as in our sufferings, and then coming together to help each other. That is the family which we acquired, and that's what pride is all about for me. A great example would be to quote the facial feminization surgery. I was there, and usually when transgenders go through, people go through these kind of surgeries, they will wish that they have their parents, mom, or dad, or sisters, or brothers, and along with them, holding hands and helping them out. But that's not the case. Mostly, it's a journey which has to be done in solitude. It has to be a lonely journey, as much as we can see in most of the transgender lives, including myself, and there won't be enough support in their lives. During that journey, your support team, the nurses, and whoever has been there, they start as people caring for us and eventually end up as friends, to be honest. So that's exactly what that acquired family is all about. People we trust and the sufferings who support us and help us the way forward. So that's exactly what Pride means, coming together in celebration. That's one part. Pride itself started as a protest for our rights. So that element of Pride, the protest, is the key and core. It's the heart of Pride. So Pride started as a protest for rights, and pretty much the way we see these days, it's more about awareness, more about education, understanding that human beings have to be uh, have to come together in a safe space in all fairness. We have to conduct our everyday living is something which we express through pride. That's the way I see it, because it's a much wider family now with two spirits, people intersex, queer, and whatever is beyond. So we are bringing everyone together beyond the cis heteronormative way of looking what we have been doing for many thousands of years. So that's all pride about me. I'm by no means is an activist. I'm sorry about that. Yes, I've been invited. It's a privilege for me to be part of trustee board for local city pride and few other organizations. But we have founded few support organizations for transgenders as well as within the community. We have partnered up with much more, but there are people doing much better than me and much more for the community. They are the activists. I'm on the sidelines. I'm trying to help them out. So that's pretty much about it. So thank you for asking, MFO, and you and your team. Whatever help you have been doing, it's all been extremely helpful for us in this journey. And when it comes down to pride, we celebrate you as our allies.
Thank you so much. Yeah, about those words, I cannot anything. I cannot say anything more. All are right, and I'm really proud of that when you approve about my team and my service. So yeah, about the way that we are working for. So when we have these replies, especially within this month, so it would be a great pride for us also within the bottom of the heart. This means we touch to people's lives, and I think being proudful because of this is feeling really great. And as you mentioned, yeah, trans rights are human rights. So it's not about being transgender or about your it's kind of sounds like your sexuality, but that's what we mentioned about trans rights or human rights. It's not about sexuality actually, it's about being human. So it's being just not accepting people's violence, so being liberated against any violence. So that's how it feels, family, huh? I think we have connection problems. Am I right?
Yes, indeed, we have various problems which we face in the society these days, Dr. Amafo. Yes, indeed, we are asking for basic human rights. That's what it is all about. Nothing more than that. We look at our fellow counterparts. We look at other humans, and that's exactly, we are not asking for anything more. And there is nothing much in terms of history where we see why it should not be that way. Because if you look back the pages of rich history of Turkey, rich history of Egypt, and entire parts where the civilizations flourished, trans people have always been there, and they have always been respected, except last few millennia where things have gone slightly in a different route when industrial revolution came up and things started moving forward. So that's something which we have to change. And if you look carefully, of course, for doctors, it's much easier to understand. Medical doctors and surgeons, it's easier to understand. You go to your hospital, you see what for, let's say, for childcare, you see a ward for cancer, you see a ward for general care as well. So why should the patient be treated any different from any other patient? The knowledge which we acquire, we go to universities, we study, and we go to corporates. Many of my friends are working. This is a change which is happening in this generation. The previous generations, people have suffered a lot. There are societies where you might have heard about South Asia and African societies, but our brothers and sisters have suffered quite a lot. They're still in a very difficult position, and we are trying to bring them out eventually and slowly. And how we do it is becomes a challenge. So nothing changes. A human is a human. We can acquire knowledge. We can work with our expertise. We can add value to civilizations and help in the human evolution as well. That's eventually the message here. So the society misses out quite a lot because they don't include a particular community of people, and the same time we miss a lot as well. We miss our lives by having that bias, unconscious or conscious bias, which which is there. So the Pride Month is all about coming together, celebrating, creating that awareness. Many of Quite often, what I'm saying is people may be opposing us. They may have thoughts which are against trans people. All it takes is sit down and talk to them, reason it out, and try and explain them how and why it is important to help trans people to and treat them like any other human being they would have treated, and that creates a lot of difference. So most often, that's what I see. It's about awareness. It's about not understanding or not meeting a trans person and then trying to talk to them. And it becomes quite necessary for someone like myself, who's in a public life, who is in a corporate life, to come out and talk and create that awareness that changes people's lives. Being a trans person, I can tell you, any family can have a trans person in their family. Sometimes it's quite often we see people who have been transphobic suddenly are surprised when they find a trans person and their friends community or within the family, and that's where things change. So the services which you have been doing for all of us has been quite a lot in terms of helping, uh, not only in terms of curing our trauma and getting out of it, but also in terms of the journey of acceptance as well. So that helps a lot, Dr. Emoko. That's my uh, few views about that topic.
Thank you. And I would like to talk about the things that we have done uh, as an intervention together. So, by the way, also, I would like to mention you are the creator of the term that we use for today, MFO Angel. You were the first one that called this term in social media, first of all. So I felt proudful when I read this within your Instagram uh, story. Still, it made me proudly, and thank you again for this one because uh, this has more meaning to me within your term and your approval. Thank you again. Also, with that, I would like to ask the interventions that we have done. What do you think about in facial? How I mentioned this, like a like performing a surgery to assess your female born twin sister. It's kind of trying to imitate this, imagine this. But about the facial feminization surgery, what do you think? Is it less is more or reverse?
The way I see it, MFO, it's really a good question. Of course, we discussed it when I first consulted you quite a lot of times as well. So the way I see it, less is more is the way to go. That's the way I see it. The way I see it, end of the day, FFS is more about who you are, and that doesn't change. And face is the index of the mind, they say. So surgeons like yourself, you always emphasize for less. I've seen that. And keeping it as natural as possible and trying to minimize that intervention, which helps in recovery as well. So, the way I see it, aggressive surgeries are not something which everyone requires and probably may not be required as well. Even in my case, to be specific, you opted for endoscopic procedures, which are easy to recover as well as much easy to intervene, and there's not much of an intervention. It helps to keep the essence of who you are when we talk about the faces in the depths of the mind. And within that, you create that artwork, you make sure that you bring in that feminized element or the masculinized element with what is required in case of binary transgender people. So that's just something which is extremely creative, and it's a work of art the way I see it. So you've been gifted the way I see it. So clearly, less is more is the way forward. Even when coming to you, we as a team of few transgender friends, we went around the world and we inquired and tried to understand facial feminization surgery from almost 70 different 74 exactly different surgeons around the world, starting from South Korea, it's well known for plastic surgery, to the US, Germany. So all around the world, not one size fits everyone. Not one surgeon will be fitting every single one of them. It's just we need to find the right person for what intervention you require and the approach you require and the aftercare you require and how you want to go about it. That's something I wanted to emphasize. So after 74 surgeons who we have talked to, discussed, and interviewed, finally we chose your clinic, and your way of approach is something which suited myself. And of course, we made the right choice, and we never had any regrets. We really appreciate not only the procedures and the aftercare, but also the relationships which are ongoing, and the way I've been taken care of. This is something which I really appreciate, Dr. Emma. So less is more is the way forward. The way I see the research works, especially the endoscopic parts of the research work, and the more new papers coming up in medical journals, whenever I look at it, the way you emphasize few things, which of course I've seen your publications as well, the research publications, which I should emphasize. Uh, Especially the fat transfer, nanofat transfer, and these are specialized procedures, which helps to be natural, keep the intervention to the minimum, yet achieve those results which are expected. And that's something which I would really emphasize. And in my view, that's the way forward at time. That's the way I see it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I also have one last question. Since I know you have really successful career within business world, you are kind of administrator within a global company, and as a success of transgender person within this hard world, especially within business world. So to manage it, to become a like well improved career within the business world, how you would like to recommend to be yourself and to manage people, to direct people, what's your recommendations? What are like requirements for you? What you would like to say? That would be I think, a good and big question for our observers to show the way. Actually, that's why I asked this especially.
That's really a great question, Dr. Emofo. Of course, life is not without challenges. We all have got our own challenges, especially when you are in a global corporate. You got a lot of challenges, and especially if you're a trans person, there will be challenges. Of course, I can't say there won't be any challenges, despite all the diversity, inclusion, and equity DEI initiatives which many corporates are bringing about. So the way I see it in this journey, especially if you're a binary transgender, having a policy which helps you to uh, come out and work towards your own transition is greatly helpful. Beyond that, what essentially is you is not going to change, and that's something which we have to in their minds. And it is very simple and easy to understand that your knowledge, experience, expertise is not going to change. Beyond that, you're coming out of a trauma or dysphoria, pretty much, extreme dysphoria, and it is going to make your life much more easier. If you are before transition, if you're not publicly transitioned, it means you're living two different lives. It's much more difficult than living one life which is truthful to yourself, and that makes it much more easier and better to approach business as well. Except that that journey during recovery is going to be a bit challenging in a business environment, and people have got to support it. I didn't mention it to you, but even in my business, there are a lot of DE elements which we are interested in and we are doing right now. Beyond equity, we are talking about belongingness. How can you bring yourself as you to the business? Because it's a place where you got to bring your creativity. Unless you are being yourself, how can you be creative? So that's the question we ask, and belongingness becomes the core part of the business where I work. So I'm also a pride co-chair in the business as well, in the corporate business. So pretty much helping to navigate that environment for the business, as well as creating those policies and processes which would help others. Creating that awareness is something which really helps. Apart from that, it is much more difficult in terms of how you can reset that age-old thinking process. So usually trans people have to do more, and that's without any doubts. It's true. We have to do more than what others do, and you have to prove yourself, because the question has been asked about, can you really do it? Can a trans person really do it? Becomes a question. So That involves working with others, sometimes taking a step back and working your way through the business. But a lot of businesses these days, you can find allies in other pride communities, especially in your either your customers or potential customers, which can help you to navigate that route. The way I see it, this is the way forward. The more people we have from the trans community who are willing to come across uh, towards the corporate environments and try to navigate those environments, the more acceptance we get along that process in a period of 5 to 10 years. That's the way I see it. Beyond that, that awareness about the scientific processes, the medical aspects of it, the transition journey, that helps to bring better policies. For example, I can quote something which we are working on now. Uh, uh, for example, there has been a kind of a mindset that trans people, especially binary trans women, after transition, how are they dealing with hygiene product, for example, menstruation and periods? Talking about those things, it becomes a kind of a challenge with the environment. Trans women most often hesitate to be part of women's network in the corporate. I have been part of women's network as well. And if you look carefully, the awareness even within trans community is less. For example, you may be well aware of surgeries, gender confirmation surgery, vaginoplasty, or gender confirmation surgery, as we say in terms of trans women. There are five different techniques, of course, inversion, one technique, and then we go for techniques around uh, peritoneal techniques and even beyond that. At least two of these techniques involve period like symptoms and they involve access to hygiene products, which means the corporate policies have to be drafted around that. Women's networks will have to look into that. And that kind of knowledge and awareness, bringing that scientific elements and what needs to be done to have a better work environment is something which we are trying to draft right now. Maybe this is a great presentation to even start that conversation for whoever is watching this particular life. I think it's a great place to start. This is a good example. Well, and the same with facial feminization surgery or any other gender affirmation surgeries or any medication. How can we help trans people? How can we formulate those policies and processes becomes a question. Apart from that, every trans person will have to understand business runs two major elements. One is the business itself, which is about the stakeholders and our promises to the stakeholders in terms of returns to their investments. The second part is about compliance and what government says in every geography and how we should operate the business. Within that, we got to make sure that we embed ourselves into the business, prove value on one side within the compliance while taking along our own values and helping trans community to be more knowledgeable on their business at the same time bringing more trans people into the corporate environment, making those environments more inclusive. That's my views on this, Dr. MFO.
That's great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this because that's precious, that's priceless for people when they have your management. And I know how you sincere are and how you strongful are. So I wish that this management maybe would be an academy in the future to show more people about their life and business life. And thanks again for your all helps within the community.
Thank you, MFO. Really appreciate the call and really appreciate the things which we have discussed. I'm very really hopeful for the future we will catch up for more, and I'm hopeful that people looking at it can come out with feedbacks and questions if anything is needed, and we are always there to help them out. And thanks to everyone who's watching it as well. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Hope to see you in flesh soon. Take care.
Thank you, Dr. MFO. Hopefully soon. Yeah. Bye.
Bye bye.